Welcome to the Vortex Nation podcast, brought to you by lovers of hunting, shooting, public lands, the Second Amendment, and good food.
All right, what's up, everybody? It is late in the morning. We're talking 7 a.m., a little bit after. The reason I say that is because we have been chasing turkeys around the last couple days. We've had some extremely early get-ups and some late nights. It's late in the spring as well, so we got some long days. But more importantly is who we're chasing these birds with. So we've got quite the crew here at the table. We've got to my right, Trent with Born and Raised, Sam Soholt, Aaron Warburton with the Hunting Public, and Casey with Hushin. Also to my left, I'm reversing. I've got Erik Barber, Vortex Optics, common voice on the podcast. But these aren't the only guys we've had here. We've got
a boatload of people.
So we've got you.
Yeah, there's one in a bed over there. There's one in a bed over here behind us.
Yeah, it looks a little bit like a homeless shelter around here. But a homeless shelter that's having a lot of fun because we've been having a blast. So I guess, one thing that we have here as far as knowledge and kind of a lifetime of hunting knowledge, we got a lot of turkey knowledge, and we've got a lot of elk hunting knowledge. And we've heard, Erik, a couple times this week, which I kind of had to check my hearing, that, Trent, that there's some similarities there.
Oh, man. I figured this was going to be pointed right at my face.
Well, we just go for the throat.
Hey, Trent, how's
here.
it going? No, I definitely will admit all of what you just said. Coming into this, honestly, my intention was to come out here, first off, have fun, right? And actually, what it ended up being was a terrible time, but no, I had a blast. But I learned
once you got here.
Yeah, it was the learning aspect of it. It was every single day I come away with something that was honestly, turkey hunting is like elk hunting in a lot of ways. Yeah, they don't have horns. Yeah, they don't weigh the weight. Yeah, it's not exactly the same, but in a lot of ways, just the way you attack it, it is a lot like elk hunting, and that was kind of fun to just see those similarities and go through that and everything from getting on their level to running and gunning to all different kind of stuff. It was pretty fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, you guys have done a ton more elk hunting than I have. I chase them around every few years. Erik and I are a little bit removed from them. I think I'm
very removed from them.
In Nebraska where we did have some elk, and now we're in Wisconsin where we do have.
I saw one in a cage on my way here. So, like, my elk hunting knowledge kind of on the way did one of those.
Yeah.
Like, it went up a step.
You really took it up a notch.
That bull was at least in a 1 acre cage.
I mean, if you live another 100, 200 years, you might get a tag here in Wisconsin.
Exactly.
Like regularly.
Are there elk in Wisconsin?
There are.
Mm-hmm. They had their first season last year.
Oh, they
correct?
did?
Yep.
5 tags.
No way.
Yep. 5 tags. So.
What part of the state are they in?
Way northern part of the state. Clam Lake area is the region that they're in.
The Wolfie part up there.
The Wolfie part.
I believe they call that the Clam Lake herd.
Clam Lake herd, yep.
Yep.
There's actually 2 herds. There's another herd in like the western part of the state too.
Cool.
But so we had our first elk season. It was a draw. How many people put in? 30-something?
37,000, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
For 5?
5?
So there were 5 that went to like the
You're
general
saying
public.
there's a chance.
Yeah.
really
throw
good
my
odds.
name in the hat next year.
Powerball or elk?
Yep.
We've referenced this podcast. We did a podcast with Kevin Wallenfang from the DNR. The Wisconsin elk herd is kind of his baby and one of my favorites. So if you are interested in Wisconsin elk, give a listen backwards on that one.
That was a beautiful plug.
But yeah, talking about the similarities to me, where you're talking about maybe getting on their level and doing some things, or before you get to an opening, you definitely want to call before you get in there, perhaps, or at least glass it, right?
Yeah.
But the calling interaction is to me like where people say, oh, it's like elk hunting, or even it's that interaction where you're using your vocalizations and their vocalizations and trying to predict what they do. And Aaron, I mean, really nobody knows that better than you. So maybe you've hunted elk before some, and what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest though. The first time I came from the Midwest and out east, where we have always been told and thought that turkey hunting was just like elk hunting. All my buddies that go out there elk hunting and come back, it's like, oh, you'll be fine. You'll do great because you know how to hunt turkeys. You'll do fine with elk. But I went out there and I got my butt kicked. the first 3 years that I hunted elk. I mean, we killed one eventually, but it was sort of a lucky thing. And yeah, there was a big learning curve there. There was definitely, like you said, Trent, some similarities that I could see immediately, but it is slightly different. But yeah, just as far as the interaction and stuff goes, that's my favorite part of both of them, I suppose, is just talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, trying to establish a conversation with the bird or the elk and then get them to come where you want them to. And that's easier said than done a lot of times. Definitely been easier said than done on this trip.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that stigma or whatever you said from Western coming out east to hunt turkeys, a lot of situations out west, you know, maybe you're dealing with like Rios in California or something like that. The birds, I would just say they're not as tough to hunt in some of those situations. And it all depends on the situation.
Yeah.
I mean, the same goes with Wisconsin here. I mean, you can find spots here. I mean,
That are super easy.
I found spots in PA and like Tennessee. You talk to one guy from down there that says, man, our birds are tough. And then you find a pocket of them where there's just so many turkeys and they're like living in town with people and you're hunting them in people's yards. And the turkey hunting is not as difficult then. But it all depends on the specific situation you're in. And in this one that we've been hunting here in Wisconsin, we're on public land hunting a fair amount of timber turkeys where you can't see them. You have to go off of audio, you know, vocalization, striking birds, moving on them, using the terrain, using the habitat to get as close as possible. And that's where you really start to see the similarities.
I think that's where it was for me, I guess, because coming from Oregon, we have more turkeys. I mean, but they're all, like you just said, they're all around houses. You see them every day. You got to stop in the road for them, you know. They're in your bumper looking at themselves all strutted up. You're like, that's not a very smart animal.
They're still not smart.
Very
here either,
narcissistic.
you know?
Very. and it's just like I came from that, and it's like we have a huge population of turkeys where I'm from, and I've never even hunted them.
Right.
It's just, But then
Turkey hunting is not that big of a deal
No,
out there, right?
no, yeah,
Well,
no,
see,
not at all.
that may have something to do with it too. They're not smart. They're still not smart here. They have a tiny, tiny brain. They're
Well,
just skittish.
we haven't killed one yet.
Yeah, they're
We
just
killed
so
one
skittish,
bird
though.
in 3 days
Yeah.
between 15 of us.
Yeah.
I
But
would say the misconception I believe is because I do both. Like I grew up elk hunting. That's always been my jam. I started elk hunting with my dad when I was 8 years old, and then recently is when I got into turkey hunting. Like the last probably 4 to 5 years, and I think the way we chose to hunt turkeys. Like I think a lot of people are like, yeah, I shot a turkey outside the house, or I went and spot and stalked a turkey in the field. It wasn't hard. The way we chose to hunt turkeys, or the way you guys do it, is exactly like how we choose to hunt elk. Like elk hunting could be easy too if you're shooting them out of a field.
Yeah.
Right. But if you're trying to go on public land and actually call these birds to you and make them think that you are another turkey, just like we do elk, that's when it can be very tough. Or it could be easy, but we've experienced a really tough time doing that.
That's what I was going to say. Is hunting pressure is everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that it just changes. Turkeys are extremely sensitive to it.
Yeah.
So these birds around here, I mean, it's the 6th season. This is the end of the year. These turkeys we're dealing with that are gobbling on these public areas now have been hunted multiple times throughout the year.
Yep.
It's a lot different than a bird that may be living on the edge of town in a yard that never gets hunted and like sees people all the time. It doesn't perceive you as a threat. So you can essentially just walk right up to them and boom, you know, meat on the table. But
Because
we need
when
one
does
of
the
those.
first season start here? When
April 17th was our opening day.
So we're all coming up on 6, like obviously 6th season coming up on 6.
You had
weeks.
a good
I can't believe 6
comparison
seasons.
Yeah.
last night with like Rocky Mountain National Park.
Right. Yeah.
You guys were talking about like the elk herd there. You just walk right up to them.
Yeah. We were talking about some of the same stuff on the Born and Raised podcast last night. We cut out a quick one, and yeah, you know, I think some of these, you know, perceptions or misconceptions about turkeys, particularly if they're in like maybe an urban environment where they're running around people's houses and people are seeing them, and like you said, they're staring in your bumper, and you're trying to pull out of your driveway to take your kids to school.
Right.
You're not going to be like, man, I sure want to get out and get after chasing those guys around. But it's almost a parallel with that to when a person goes to Rocky Mountain National Park or Yellowstone or something like that, and they see a bull elk standing offside the road, and you get out of your truck and you take a bunch of pictures of it, and then people say, well, I don't think hunting elk would be that interesting.
Right.
Yep.
You know, or that challenging or that, you know. And
That was
But
the cool
but-
thing. Yeah, this last couple of days is, I'd say we talk about similarities, and it's just even with the stuff that we use, like mapping and stuff. Onyx Maps. You were on Onyx all day long on this, just looking for these little tiny. Okay, that's public. We can hunt that. No, that's private. And we had one case where there was a bird just gobbling his head off, but nope, it just went over on private, And I'm not talking private like in the yard private. I'm talking like there's this imaginary line in the middle of the woods, a middle of nowhere, but it's just something that we can't hunt. So I mean, that was interesting to me as far as just the similarities in the stuff that you use every single day. I mean, I imagined it being, we're going to drive around and we're going to see turkeys out in the field, and when they go over in the brush, we're going to go call them in. And it wasn't that way. It was totally different. We're just putting boots on the ground and hiking miles after miles, and just like elk, just looking for that one, right? We're just looking for that one that wants to play our game.
Yeah.
Yep.
When you talk about putting miles on, we're in a little bit of a unique region in the Midwest here. We're in some pretty good bluff country. It's hilly country. You've got canyons and draws and ditches and hollers and you talk about putting on the miles. I think we're putting on an average of seven a day ish. Give or take a little bit of that, and so it's definitely not easy. It hasn't been easy. Like you said, these have been pressured birds. We had a little bit of interesting weather the first day, and then yesterday we thought was going to be on fire, and for whatever reason, I mean, I think everybody's been getting into birds.
Yeah.
And getting into birds and a lot of close calls, and
and like yesterday, like we got on birds, and I'd be curious to get like some of your guys that have like more elk hunting experience take on this, but like we had birds right off the bat that were gobbling, not like they were gobbling their heads off. They, wanted to play the game. There were hens that they were ignoring and coming to us, but there was just a little subtle terrain feature that kind of ended up hanging up those birds. They were within gun range, just the way that the topography laid, we couldn't even see them, but we could hear them drumming and whatnot within probably 40 yards.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that's something that you guys run into when you're trying to call a bull. Like I was talking to Wes all morning about how we had these turkeys within gun range, but it was just one little hiccup that ended up,
It didn't come together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's same exact way. I mean, elk hunting, they're just like these turkeys. One thing I did learn is their eyesight is incredible. Yeah. And it's the same thing with an elk. You're calling. It'll come, usually a bull will come to a certain spot, and it sometimes won't come any further. That's as far as he feels comfortable coming. Same, it seems like with a turkey. They'll come to a certain spot, and they're not seeing what they want to. They're hearing the sound, but they're not seeing something that makes their brain go, okay, yeah, that's a turkey over there. They're just a little bit hesitant. And same with an elk. And with elk, what we do is we'll back off of them at that point. And then we have to get right to where he was last, comfortable coming. And then usually, a lot of times, he'll still feel that is a comfort place, and then keep that collar back, but move that shooter forward. And then he'll sometimes come back to that same point, and you can get a shot at him. But same thing, it seems like with turkey. Same thing. I mean, that's what was yesterday. Same thing.
Once the time, reaches its maturity or whatever, 2 years old and older, they know their environment well enough at that point. And like we were talking about, they can pinpoint the source of that sound, same as an elk can.
Yeah. And
they just know how to come in to see what that sound is coming from and then get the hell out of there if they need to. They just don't, every once in a while on public land, they'll come bombing right in, but usually that's like the first week of season before they've had pressure and stuff. We have them all the time where they're gobbling and they're coming in, and they'll swerve you at the last minute, and they'll pop up at your 7 o'clock and just raise their head up over the hill and look right at you and take off, because they don't see a hen.
Gotcha.
There. They've played that game before, and they've had lead slung at them or something. And
what do you think? You're talking about them getting to know their environment. What do you think? Do you know what their home range is in general?
Greg probably does. It's not particularly big.
Yeah.
A turkey, that is one big difference I see.
Yeah.
Elk will just go and go and go, and turkeys, like a lot of upland birds, are extremely sensitive to the habitat that they live in. You may have a 4,000 acre chunk, but there may only be pockets of birds here and there kind of scattered throughout that area because of the habitat factors that they have to have. They have to have a number of different things for poults to raise, they've got to have thick cover, a lot of times taller grasses. They got to have mature timber right there so that they can roost. They got to have water. They have to have multiple food sources, all in a fairly small area, half mile to a square mile for turkeys to exist there in that area. And if they're missing just one of those, they're not going to be there. And they're not, they'll just travel and live somewhere else. So with turkeys, it seems like once you find the birds, you're just a little more cautious moving in because they're not going to move too terribly far from that spot. And that's been our experience with Easterns anyway. Once you get out west and you're hunting Miriams and more of that monotonous type terrain, they'll go and go and go. And I'm not saying that Easterns won't do the same thing at different times of the year, but for the most part, once you find turkeys in a particular location and you figure out how to hunt them right there, so long as the habitat doesn't change, they're going to be there. Like year after year, they're going to be there.
That's a pretty hot tip, though, to think about when you're trying to, break down some country around here, and maybe particularly these eastern birds, because there are some, what was that one tract of public land that we were thinking about jumping into was almost 10,000 acres or something like that, Eric?
Yep.
Wow.
That's a lot of acreage to go, trudge around and try and find a bird. But if you kind of know, like you said, if you can sort out by mapping or scouting and figure out what those turkeys' needs are or know what those turkeys' needs are and figure out where those pockets are in there, you're definitely ahead of the game.
I'd imagine another big difference, too, is like a turkey, you can spook a turkey. You can have, like those birds we had yesterday working. Like, they came in, ended up not working out. They actually, the one time, literally ran away from us.
Yeah.
I feel like
you had some history with those birds, Eric.
Yeah. But I feel like, we got a name picked out. We don't have any pictures.
We have history.
Yeah.
Just yet.
I think that bird may have experienced a little bit of mental trauma.
His buddy came in with him about 3 weeks ago, and his buddy didn't leave. So I'm wondering if that's why he didn't want to play the game yesterday. Moment of silence for his buddy.
Yes. Absolutely.
But anyways,
what were you going to say?
I feel like you can spook a bird and then give him an hour, give him even 30 minutes sometimes, make a quick adjustment, and you can probably still kill that turkey. But I feel like if you spook an elk, he might be in the next unit, and you might be SOL.
To some point.
Yeah, I would agree.
To some point, like I've seen these guys do it a lot, where they'll actually bump a bull and then reset on that bull and call him in and kill him.
Yeah.
Huh.
More or less with Roosevelt elk, just because of the thick denseness. So a Roosevelt will usually run about 200 or 300 yards and then start sneaking around after you've spooked him. And then he'll start going back to do elk things. Rocky Mountain, you can see dust over the farthest hillside. They're gone a lot of times just because it's so much more open.
That's kind of interesting, though, thinking about particularly rosies and these eastern birds in this, pretty thick, hilly cut country.
There's a lot of similarities here.
That's what I was thinking when Aaron was talking about birds that don't need to leave, like that. They live in a square mile.
Right.
Rosies are the same.
Yeah.
In comparison to Rocky Mountain elk, like rosies don't, in most places, don't need to migrate. They summer right where they winter, and they'll be there in the fall. They don't move that much. Rockies, they migrate and move 20, 30 miles if they want.
Well, you were asking me yesterday about sign. Like how I'm always, we're always, when we're out there, we're looking for like fresh turkey tracks and fresh scratching and stuff. That's why we look for so much sign, is because they're in such a small pocket, essentially. Like if I see one fresh gobbler track on the ground, there's real good odds that he is within earshot of that track.
Right.
Or fairly close. Like, if you spend some time in that area, you're eventually going to hear him. When you're elk hunting, especially in Rocky Mountain elk, like you said, it's just there's sign everywhere.
Yeah, you might have fresh elk crap, but they're 3 miles away.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like move through during the night.
It's like pay no mind to it.
Elk more or less have cycles, I think. They make big loops, and they do. You just got to catch them in the right time.
That's what, like when we first hunted with the Born and Raised crew 2 years ago, and me and Brian went out there, and we'd never hunted Roosevelt elk. We didn't know. We thought they were identical to Rocky Mountains, and we'd be walking through the rainforest there on the coast, and these guys would find a fresh rub, and that was from that year, and they would be high-fiving, and like I keep watching this, like they're like, yeah, fresh rub, or if they heard a bugle at night or whatever, they'd hear a bugle, and it was like, oh, dead bull,
game on.
And in my head, I'm like, what? Why are these guys so excited? Because where I hunt in Idaho, if you find a fresh rub, you're like, awesome. That means there was an elk here at one point this year.
Right.
Who knows where the hell he's at now?
Well, and that's how I've viewed actually turkey sign in the past. Like, that's cool. It's good to know that there was one here.
Yeah.
But I should be putting a little bit more stock into it.
Yeah,
I guess.
but honestly, that first year we hunted, every bull we heard bugle. Because, like, I hear bulls bugle outside my camp. And actually, Trevor came over and hunted with us 2 years ago. And we literally heard bulls fighting from our camp, 100 yards?
Yeah, yeah.
And him and Trent are like, oh, man, we're going to go kill it. And I was like, guys, that means there's elk right there right now. Tomorrow morning, they'll be 20 miles down the drainage.
Which they
were.
Yeah. No, that is definitely true. Is the species is so similar in a lot of ways, but yet so different in others. And
So
a lot of that depends on terrain.
Roosevelts are Easterns. Rockies are Merriams.
Is that what we're talking about?
That sounds like
Sounds about
good.
right.
Yeah.
Sounds
Really?
about right.
I'm all in.
I'm all in.
Yeah.
I feel like this whole podcast is, and I've felt this way, like I know there's this argument in the industry and amongst hunters that are like elk. The whole topic, elk hunting is like turkey hunting. I feel like we're trying to justify that it really is. Who are we trying to justify that to? Is it the turkey guys that don't want that to be the case, or is it the elk guys that don't want it to be the case?
I would say it's more the elk guys that don't want that to be the case.
They're a little
because
prouder,
you're out hunting this, unicorn majestic ghost out there,
and you can't compare that to
which
a
is
bird.
and I get it. Like, I mean, people have built that up in their minds for their entire life that an elk is like this. I mean, the pinnacle of the pinnacle of killing an animal.
It is to me. It's
Well,
like
yeah,
freaking awesome, man.
and in a lot of ways it is, but at the same time, like at the end of the day, it is just an animal.
Yeah.
And animals do animal things.
Well, I think in this whole thing, and trophies in the eye of the beholder. In anything that you do. We're talking to Dave last night outside. The guy that we met, great guy. Good to spend some time with him, and he's killed. I don't know how many turkeys.
Well,
Just
he's killed 5 this week.
Yeah, just this year alone.
90 days, I believe.
He has
Yeah.
to be one of the most accomplished turkey hunters there is.
He's a machine. Like
Yeah.
I don't know that there's a single person in the earth that loves turkey hunt more than him.
I don't think
at
there
the
is.
current moment.
Give him a
anyway.
plug. What's his name? Dave Owens?
Dave Owens, Pinhoti Project on YouTube. He does similar stuff that we do with the turkey tour and like Land of the Free and stuff, where he basically just films all of his turkey hunts from all over the country. And Dave starts in late February in Florida, and he usually ends in Maine in early June. And he hunts every day of the season.
Yeah.
And he lives out of his truck. Like, he came here yesterday and cooked up the bird that he shot yesterday morning for us. Mm-hmm. And then he drove his truck to a spot somewhere down the road and slept in the back of it, and he's in the woods right now.
And if we had service, there's probably a quick video of him smoking a cigar this morning.
Because he probably
'Cause he's
already
smoking-
shot a turkey.
Yeah. Every time he shoots a tom, there's a video of him smoking a little cigar.
Yeah, Dave, when I first met him and was talking to him, he was like, he didn't really even care about deer hunting or anything in the fall. And he's from Georgia.
Right.
He would spend like the summer and the fall planning his spring turkey season and like where he's going to go. He's killed turkeys in 49 to 50 states, and they don't exist in Alaska.
Right.
He's killed them in
Has
every
he-
other state.
Has he done that twice now?
No, once.
Just
But
once.
he's
Okay.
close to. I mean, if he
Yeah.
wanted to do it again, it wouldn't take him but a couple more years because he hits 20 states in a year.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
So he's
Crazy.
But yeah, like he was talking about, he's elk hunted before.
Yeah, no, that's what I was getting to. He's elk hunted, and he just looked me right in the eyes and said, I get more jacked up on a turkey than an elk. He said, I would rather chase turkeys than elk. And
He's like, I'd rather just be able to shoot him and throw him over my shoulder and pack him out than have to do all that
Yep.
other stuff of
right,
getting one
because he
out.
likes to hunt by himself, and he's just like, it takes a day and a half to get an elk out, and then, I just pack a 25-pound turkey,
Then he'd go and do it all over again.
Yeah.
The next day.
Yeah. You don't have that recovery time
Yeah.
after getting a bull out.
And it definitely, I think, you get way more time to hunt them, so you can learn them better. Elk,
Right.
you're pretty much you've got a month, and their rut cycle, is that wrapped around 2 or 3 weeks. Really, I mean, it's strong rut. So it's like, and he's hunting them months on end.
Well, and you
so.
think about the
Yep.
accessibility.
That's-
There's
yeah.
no way you could hunt that many states for elk in
No.
a year.
Yeah.
You couldn't
No,
afford
but
it.
like,
Couldn't
I
afford
said,
it.
he's killed turkeys in
No,
49
you
of the
couldn't
50
afford it.
states. That's turkeys exist in 49 states.
Yeah.
Elk exist in how many states?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. A fraction of that.
But that was interesting just to see his take. And Casey, you're right. I mean, it's the trophy is, everybody sees it differently, and to say one way or the other, what's better, what's not, it's probably not right for us to do. Even, it's just like, it's still hunting. You're still out there, you're doing it, and you're learning something, I would say.
Well, yeah, and it's definitely not, I mean, turkey hunting is, I guess what I like about turkey hunting, and I think all hunting is fun, right? But like turkey hunting it's fun on a different level. It's just, like you said, you have that super interactiveness. I think there's less pressure.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Less pressure.
Yeah,
we haven't seen a hunter the whole time.
No, I mean like
pressure on
less
yourself.
pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Like you got an elk tag.
But yes to that too.
Everywhere we hunt, there's people all over.
Why
the place.
is that? Why is there less pressure? I agree.
It's the
There's-
end of the season.
What now?
What pressure are we talking about right
Hunting
now?
We're talking
pressure.
about like
Pressure.
pressure on yourself.
Oh, pressure.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
That's what
about.
I'm talking
about.
I
Yeah.
think like you got a fifth. Well, for you guys, literally as a non-resident in Wisconsin, you have less than a $70 tag, I want to say, and then every tag after that is an additional $15. So the financial investment is minuscule to it. And like at the end of the day, you're kind of you're hanging out with your buddies. Like we've had a great time. Like we did kill a bearded hen. Thank you, Sam.
Yep,
for
thank you,
putting us
Sam.
on the board.
Nice work out there. Bro. Nice work out there.
But like and that's not the defining part of the trip. Like it's having fun. You're getting in birds. You're hiking around with your buddies. But like too, for the other terms of pressure, like right now we're so late in the season that just no one is really messing with them right now. There's bugs out there. The woods are thick. Whereas like a month ago, it was open timber. You could navigate it real easily. So it's just different year timing and stuff
As
like
a
that.
non-resident going out west and going elk hunting, it's a huge investment of time and money for me. And like you just said, it's $65 or $70 to come here and hunt a turkey.
It could be
Come
more,
here on a 3-day weekend.
If I go out west and I'm hunting elk, I've probably planned that trip for at least several months. And I'm spending upwards of $1,000 on a license,
2
and I'm
weeks off work.
taking time away from work or whatever, and going out there and
You could have 5-10 years into points.
Yeah,
that you've
I
been
mean,
building
you
in the
got-
state, and you're like, holy mackerel, I'm burning them this year.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
This
I mean,
is my
you may
chance.
only, if you're serious at elk hunting, I mean, these guys, they will kill a bunch of them. But like me in my lifetime, I may only get a chance to harvest a couple of bulls.
Yeah.
Potentially. It depends on how many times I get out west, but I've been out there a handful of times and got one bull so far.
It just depends on
bunch of
goals.
turkeys.
I mean,
Yeah.
you could do the same thing
Yeah.
every single year. You're right. It is more money, definitely. It's going to be, just for transportation. But I mean, I bet, Dave or you guys, I'll bet, spend quite a bit of money in gas money running around all over through the states and stuff like that. I think it just depends on where, where your head's at on the whole game, right? I think. But elk is, I think maybe they are a little more in the special category just because of, the only times that you can really hunt them with a bow or whatever your weapon may be, or I don't know. I guess, and turkeys, I mean, you can kill them in, 49 of the 50 states.
Yeah, you
right?
got lots and lots of opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas elk, you're pretty nailed down to just, a few different places.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Awkward
Oh,
talk
pause.
to me, Mark.
Awkward pause.
Awkward
I had a
pause.
thought there, and it just
Left me.
It left.
I was filming
like
Jake
a turkey
waking
in the
up.
night. That kind of distracted me.
I did too. That long flowy hair.
Well, Sam, you've turkey hunted now and elk hunted, and you turkey hunted a fair amount before this season. But we collabed for about a month in April. Him and the bus came out.
Yep.
And you got to turkey hunt some new and different situations, and I think those are definitely similar in how you can travel from one area, hunt a different subspecies of turkey in different habitat and different terrain, and sort of have to change your tactics up somewhat. I don't know if that is the same with elk so much. I mean, it seems like you guys talk about hunting Roosevelt slightly different than you talk about hunting Rockies, but at the same time, you're still dealing with an elk.
yeah, we do the same stuff, but it's just a little bit different as far as where you're going to find them a lot of times. But and it's same as turkey. It's half or 3/4 of a day of dullness, walking around, call to 5 minutes of chaos. Really, I mean, it's kind of the same way as far as elk hunting goes. What we did this last couple of days, you're walking, you're just waiting for that one response, waiting for him to gobble or whatever, and then it's like, oh, go, set up. Let's do this. Where should I set up? Should I get too close? Am I too close? Am I too far? It's the same exact thing as far as in that concept. Yeah, definitely.
Here's a question I have for you guys, because I feel like the past few days, our group specifically, I mean, we broke into several different groups here out of the 15 folks that we have in camp. And our group specifically, like, we've been getting on birds in the morning, but it's been tough for us finding birds in like midday. And I know you guys are always saying it only takes one. How do you guys stay mentally sharp? Because that's been the hardest part for us. Like, we walk over the next ridge, we call down there, and like when we don't get a response, I feel like that just our morale is just doing this from a hunting standpoint, not from like having a good time or anything. So how do you guys like keep yourself motivated that way?
I think
keep
it's
going?
I think it's on a timeline, right? I think elk season you only got a month.
Yeah.
So that right there, you're like, I've only got this date to kill this animal. Whereas this turkey hunting thing, it's just like, hey, you guys want to go to breakfast? Sounds good. Let's go. Let's go eat breakfast. Let's go eat. Go to lunch. In town. Elk hunting, you just don't do that. You're like, we got to maximize our time. Okay.
Let's hold it. Let's bring it back a little bit.
Bring it back.
Dial it back. Dial it back a little bit.
But at the same time, I think you know how much time you have to do it. And whereas turkey hunting's a little bit different, where like we talked about, it's a little more lax. And and I guess any type of hunting, you can get in as deep as you want.
Right.
Look at Dave. I mean, he's in deep.
Isn't he like 90 days deep right now?
Yeah, 90 days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He hunts them
That is unbelievable.
religiously. But yeah, like you were saying, Eric. I mean, you're casting that sound over the ground, and you're a prospect. I mean, that first day we went out with bad conditions, and we didn't hear a turkey gobble until 4 p.m.
Yeah.
And that was the only bird that we got on all day. And we definitely have long periods where we have that happen, whether it's the weather that's causing it or we're just hunting new areas and we just can't find turkeys or whatever. But after you have that work a couple of times, you just know, like, what do you guys say? Time and pressure?
And pressure.
That's a good way to put it with just all different types of hunting. Like, if you continue to hit that call and move to new locations, casting it out there, you're eventually going to get a bite.
Are you guys ever
going
at? Because I know you guys kind of don't sit and wait. Like, you're not chasing the silent bull. Do you guys on the turkey tour? Are you guys ever chasing the silent tom? Like, is that ever something you're
killing birds that are just dead quiet? Yeah, at times, but it depends on the situation. If you're in open terrain where you can spot them, something like that, and you can cover ground and glass and that sort of thing, then
What if you can't, though?
And early in the season, we did set up on, like, we'd get up on a ridge, like, say, Tennessee. There was a couple times where we'd be hiking around, we'd maybe got on a bird in the morning, but then everything just shut up. And then we'd be hiking a ridge, and there's a bunch of fresh scratch or whatever, and we would just sit down for a while and set up.
A blind setup. You don't know there's a bird actually there.
Well, and that's a good point, Sam, because early in the season, the situation is different than it is now because they have a lot of hens.
Yep.
And they are very quiet throughout the day because they have a whole gang of hens with them. They're breeding hens. And when they have hens, they have no reason to gobble. They have no reason to answer you because they're worried about breeding hens. However, the advantage with those turkeys early in the season is that they just don't move very far. They pitch down, they follow hens to a feeding area, and they basically just float with them in that zone all day, breeding hens and being dead quiet. So when you do find sign, say you hear a bird in the morning gobble a couple times on the roost and you throw a pin at him, then you spend the rest of your day sneaking into that zone where those birds are at, and you're not listening for gobbling.
Yeah, you're listening for
scratching. You're listening for turkeys drumming. You're listening for the occasional hen yelp or cluck in the flock because he may not gobble once. And then, to your point, you set up on sign and you wait. You just wait for your opportunity because at some point maybe you can call the hens in or those hens will drop off and he'll throw a couple of courtesy gobbles out there that help you relocate him and then continue creeping in on him.
And that's another thing I learned this year. So last year was the first time I'd ever heard a turkey drum. Like it wasn't a sound that I had, my ears were picking up at any time. But I had 5 toms come in, like it was 10 degrees out and there was snow on the ground and they didn't gobble at all. And they had 5 toms come in just drumming back and forth. And so like I picked that up. And then this year, hunting with you, like early in the season, we were hearing a lot more drumming than we were gobbling. They'd gobble on the roost, but then we were getting close. And so like as you start to pick up on that sound, you're like really paying attention for that. And several times this year since then, I have either killed birds or had very close calls only because I heard a bird drumming.
Yeah.
Like
Really?
Yeah.
Those are some of my favorite turkey hunts, man, because you're hyper focused. Like when you're moving into the flock like that,
Yeah.
essentially, and you don't know exactly where they're at. You just can't make a mistake and walk up over a ridge.
Right.
Because if they're all there, they're gone.
Yep.
You know,
So you're going slow.
you're slow going. It's
I
like
noticed
you
that.
go,
Yeah, the last 2 days.
yeah.
Yeah.
How many times did he turn around Case and go, guys, slow down? Just like,
Quite a few.
no bugles here, bud. Let's go.
Yeah, but I'm sure that happens with elk occasionally
Right.
too. I mean, watching your all's videos, sometimes they may bugle out their ways,
Right.
But then you hear a twig break, or you hear them raking a tree, or something like
It's
that.
usually
It's a
that,
different
exactly.
sound,
Yeah.
than them just bugling and bugling and bugling as they come in,
Right.
And if you're hearing a turkey drumming, he's
Close.
Like he's gun range close.
Yeah.
You know? And whereas like if an elk isn't doing something audible, like if he's raking a tree, he could still be out there 150, 200
yeah.
yards, you know.
But you're still listening for
Yeah,
that
right.
subtle sound
Yep.
that
Just
tips
give
you
away.
off.
Just to give away.
Like, is he
I
moving
think-
to the right or is he moving to the left?
Yeah, I think the drumming thing's a really good point, like especially late in the year like this, because I mean, 2 years ago when I was hunting with you in Iowa, we were working the backside of a hedgerow, and we knew there were birds on the opposite side of this fence line, and the reason we ended up killing a bird was we all of a sudden heard him drumming, and he was literally on the opposite side of it. So like when it's and you can relate that to this time of the year when it's super super thick. If you're walking through the woods really slow, and all of a sudden you hear one spit and drum, I mean like. Yeah, you got a bird within gun range, and you just got to start slowing down. And
Does a turkey drum every time he breaks into strut?
Not every time. Every time he breaks into full strut, I suppose.
What does that sound
Okay.
like? Really?
He's usually spitting. He's extending his wings all the way out, and then he's fanning out.
Do you know where the sound comes from? Is it?
I don't know. Greg
See,
probably does.
No, I've tried. Greg, do you know? I know you're off podcast, but the spit is here. But where does the drum come from? Like that puff, like of.
I think it maybe they're sucking in air to just use their muscles or whatever to blow those feathers out. Maybe that's where the spit comes from. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to. I mean, like that's like the drum, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it turns into a drum. Like,
Yep. And turkeys, they won't necessarily go
They
into
got
full strut,
drumsticks too.
but
Yes, they do.
they're calling to other birds with that as well. Like,
Okay.
and you'll even hear if a tom has some jakes with him, for instance, if he spits and drums, you'll hear a jake go "Row, row." Like he'll answer that bird's drumming, or that tom will get in close to where he's heard a hen or he thinks his hens are at, and that's how he keeps them kind of in his zone. He's spitting and drumming, and they hear that sound and they stay together in the woods. You know, that's why a lot of that soft calling works real well when you do get inside of that bubble. We always use that term, get inside the bubble, that 100-yard bubble that the birds are in, and then you scratch in the leaves and you do some soft calling that just sounds like hens moving through the woods feeding, and that makes those birds feel comfortable and kind of float your direction. You're not always just banging away on a call, you know, to blow their hat off. And I mean, it all just depends on the situation, of course.
Right.
But
Getting inside that bubble, that seems like another, hearing you guys talk about calling rosies, you know, breaking that threshold of when that bull's going to come. Like, he may not look at you if you're 300 yards or come if he's 300 yards
Correct.
away, but you get inside, 100 yards,
Everybody
50
calls
yards
it the
maybe?
magic 100-yard circle or whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it.
Which is kind of interesting hearing you talk about that, you know, getting in that
Yep.
turkey
Oh, it's
bubble, too.
crazy. It's crazy. Other than checking the wind every 30 seconds.
yeah,
Did you feel that way at all? this
Dude,
week?
I was
Like,
always
when the wind would hit our neck. I'd
every
be like,
time.
oh, we're
This is
done.
over. This is over.
Yeah.
You know.
What's the phrase? If a turkey could smell you and never kill one.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think, same thing with, if elk could see like turkeys and turkeys could smell like
If
elk.
elk could roost in a tree,
Yeah.
you'd never kill
well,
one.
they'd probably be pretty easy. Because you'd have to find a very large tree.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Especially for those Roosevelts. They're 1,500 pounds.
Yeah.
1,700.
Big tree.
17.
You'd need that old growth out there.
Yeah. We got to have grown big.
But you know that I swear that's one of the things that I do love about turkey hunting. I find it actually, like I said, you got to be mindful of their eyes all the time, but it is so freeing not to have to worry about the wind.
Yeah.
I mean,
Every one of our setups, I don't know why, when it would gobble or something like that, I'd be like, check the wind right now. And it was always blowing right at them. Did you notice that?
Yes.
Every single time. And I'm
Maybe
just
they
like,
can smell, and that's why we're not killing these things.
Nah, they,
Have they evolved?
They have the Southwest Wisconsin birds have evolved,
Nah.
and they're onto us.
yeah, it was different. It was
Don't
different in
hunt
that
here.
realm, big time.
But we've got some of the best turkey hunters in the country, in my opinion. Sorry, guys, I'm gonna
World.
give you a world big compliment. It's been tough. It's been a little bit skinny, but like we've been getting on birds, and I know like Wes isn't here right now, but Wes has literally gotten to hear
Every
turkey sound.
vocalization. Yeah.
all of them. Like I mean,
All
yelps,
out.
clucks,
Yep.
keys, cuts, gobbles. I mean, they've put on a pretty epic turkey clinic. I mean,
Yeah.
if you were looking to hear what a turkey sounded like we got to hear it. Other than the sound of one getting shot in the face.
Yeah,
We
we
kinda
haven't
missed
heard
out on that
many
one,
gunshots.
yep.
That happened.
But
It's tough, man, but you can get hot fast, especially if you know the areas where the birds are at. You get good weather conditions, and weather plays a big part. Like today, it's been raining for the last 4 or 5 hours. After this podcast, if we head back out to the field, we're probably going to be looking at fields because the woods are so thick right now.
Right.
They're dense. They're soaking wet. Those birds will want to go out in the fields and preen and dry off. So on a wet weather day, you're looking for openings. On a windy day, you're looking for leeward sides of hills and bottoms because birds will travel down there where they can hear. They're not going to sit up on top of a hill on a ridge where the wind's gusting like crazy and sacrifice one of their senses. Because like you said, they can't smell,
Right.
sight and sound. So it just depends on the condition.
Another similarity.
I was
Yep.
just about to ask.
Another similarity. No, that was interesting. When we first got here, we were seeing a lot in the fields. Just on the edges of the fields,
Right.
not right on the middle. Usually, it was just on the edges. And me, I just like it's a turkey bird doing turkey things. I don't know, whatever. And you're just like, no, he just wants to get out of that wetness, out of that, the taller grass. And then we'd go and hike, and we'd get to a field. And I'm like, there's got to be one of this. And you're like, no, this grass is way too tall. And I'm going, okay, here we go. Yeah, let's go. Let's find some shorter grass, So it's like man, they're a finicky little thing.
They are.
But I think that adds to the nostalgia of hunting them. Really, I mean there's so many different little nuances about the bird that targeting different spots and weather and then wind, and it was too windy, we can't hear them, and it was Though I think we've seen a lot of different elements. I think, just in the last 2 days. Where it's been like everybody was jacked up yesterday, perfect day ever.
Right, yep.
And cold and clear was what it seemed like is what you guys are looking for. Anyway, it was neat actually going through and just seeing all those differences.
And they were gobbling a lot better yesterday than they were the day before. The day before that was wet, windy, and cold.
Yeah.
And turkeys weren't as vocal. They were down low. They were in fields like that. Yesterday, in the timber, going high as soon as they pitch down
Ridge
off
tops.
the roost,
Yeah.
like the toms do. They're flying down. It's a calm day, and it's nice and sunny. The woods are dry, so they're going to use that portion of the habitat. Yesterday morning, and he was gobbling that one we were on, and he went straight up to the top of that ridge. And the reason why is so he can cast those gobbles down in the drainages below him and get hens to come up out of there to him.
Gotcha.
If he's down low and gobbling, he can't cover
His
as much
sound doesn't
country.
resonate as far.
Right.
Yeah.
And they know where those spots are, man, in their range. Those toms do.
Yeah.
So I think one of the best things I learned from you this spring warb was you can't just follow the turkeys around. Like you got to get to where they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes from just experience of like looking at maps, and if you know a bird's in there, like looking for benches and high spots, like depending on the weather.
Yep.
And getting to those spots where like, okay, it's going to be a clear day. You want to get to that high spot, get above them, get to that high spot, and call them right to there. Whereas on, like you said, on a windy day, like maybe you side hill them and you stay down out of the wind because they're going to pitch down and they're going to come around on the level.
Yeah.
It's harder to call a bird down to you.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
You guys always set up above them.
Get above them. Yeah.
It was just interesting.
Yep. And yesterday morning when we got there, I thought it was going to be dead calm at first light. We hiked clear up to the top of that ridge, and the wind was blowing, 8-10 miles an hour once we got up there. I'm like, it was windy yesterday. They probably went to roost last night low, so we started bailing off on the leeward side of that hill where we could hear it a little better, and sure enough, we heard one gobbling down there. But he didn't stay down there all morning. For an hour later, he was way up on a ridge.
That's a good point right there. I think a lot of people wake up the morning that they're going, and they're thinking, oh man, perfect conditions today. Like this, I just got to get high. It's going to be calm, whatever. But the day of conditions aren't the conditions that you want to think about. You want to think about last night. Like last night was windy, so they are going to be low. Even though today's perfect day for them to be up high, they're not moving during the night like an elk would, you know. Like in an elk hunting situation, I'd imagine then you would go on that day's conditions.
Yeah.
Whereas a turkey hunting situation, you're thinking backwards and thinking about last night and making a move from there.
That's a good point, Eric. Of course, I don't know. Maybe they are moving at night because you guys stepped on a hen on the nest.
She was
Aaron.
nesting. Yeah, she had her.
We saw the
full
first
clutch
turkey
egg.
yesterday, guaranteed.
What time was that though?
4:30, wasn't it?
Yeah, 4:30.
Super dark.
I mean, that seems early to
She
me. Was
scared
that
the piss out of me. I was,
We all
I was
about-
walking up that hill. I mean, I about stepped on her. She just blew up out of the ground right in front of me.
Will a hen not sit on her nest all night? She'll be in a tree.
She may a little bit, but when she gets a full clutch of eggs, she's got to spend a lot of time on that nest.
Yeah.
Especially as they getting close to hatching.
Yeah.
She's spending more and more time there, and that's why you're hearing birds gobble up in the day right now.
Yeah.
And toms are searching a little bit more. They're flying down. They're going to high spots because they don't have very many hens.
Yeah.
They're all in the nest. This is when we prefer to hunt them. Is later in the season like that.
Yeah.
You just the trade off is that they've been hunted a lot to this point. A lot of them have been shot.
Yeah.
So you don't have quite
Sure.
as many birds to go after
Yeah.
as you did earlier in the year, but the advantage is that they are more vocal.
Getting back to that high spot thing, though, that's really something that I didn't know until earlier this year, and I was actually hunting extremely different terrains in Wisconsin, so same state, but topography was ultra flat, and I was hunting with my buddy AJ, and we'd see these strutters out there, and he's like, oh yeah, they always strut there, they always strut there, they always strut. I'm like, why do they strut there? It was probably like a difference of maybe 5 foot elevation.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, just ultra subtle, but it was higher.
Well,
And
you'll
that's where
see
they
that,
would go.
You'll see that, happen all over the place. In Kansas, if you're dealing with flat ground, you're hunting a lot of fields and drainages and
Yep,
stuff. For
that's-
example,
we're
they have
in field
wheat.
country.
They have wheat growing out there in the areas that we hunt in the spring. Well, once that wheat reaches knee high in spots of that field, they won't use those spots of the field because they're not safe. A bird can't feed and be safe out there because they can't see what the heck is around it. But if there's a hard pan in the edge of that field, maybe a different type of soil where the wheat doesn't get as high, you'll see them strutting right there. Maybe a 40-acre field, and they're using a half acre of it just because the wheat is 6 inches shorter right there, or the grass is shorter in a spot. Or
Yeah.
you get in these timber situations that we've been hunting late season like this, you may walk through a ridge that is pretty thick. It's waist high. There's a lot of thick saplings. And then you walk out on the end of a point and it opens up and it's nice and clean. And all of a sudden you're seeing scratching right there.
Yeah.
You got 400 acres, but you have these very small little pockets that are the size of this room or this house that they will go to and spend time in. And that's one thing I've learned over the years is we run and gun and we cover a lot of ground. We hear a bird gobble, we're going at them sometimes. But oftentimes, if you're in a spot that they potentially want to be, you're just setting up there. If you hear him gobble, it's like, well, you want to be where the turkey's going.
That's right.
And he may stand there in that spot and gobble for a while, but he's heard you at that point, and there's a good chance that he may come over there. It may be 400 yards away, but if you're patient and you're in a spot that turkeys frequent, that's also a good option.
Yeah.
Just to wait them out, see what the bird does, and then kill them or make your move. Because they will move eventually. They're not going to stay in the same exact spot all day if they don't have hens like that.
Gotcha. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. That is interesting.
Turkey birds.
What do you got? You want to roll into last calls?
I think
know
let's-
guys got to catch some flights
I
and
was just-
stuff.
I was going to
Trent's
say,
got to jump on a plane here
Yep.
soon.
Last one to get here, first one to leave. Yeah.
no, man. So last calls. If you guys aren't familiar, some of you guys have been on the podcast before. It's just kind of a final thought. Thoughts on the trip, thoughts on turkey hunting, something you learned.
Something totally irrelevant. We have no qualifications.
There's no
really.
rules.
Yeah,
There's no rules.
First rule,
There's
yeah.
no rules. No, I came into this, and I'm coming away from this, honestly, have learned a ton about turkeys and gained respect for them. I will be honest. I was that guy, or, those guys that just like, it's a turkey, whatever. And will it ever, hold a place as elk in my heart? Not a chance. But at the same time, we'll get you there. I do have a way bigger respect for them. And I think I'm going to hunt them at home. I think I'm going to, go and do that. It's springtime. Usually right now we're hunting bears, we've done a lot of that lately. So anyway, it's just another thing that you can get out and do this time of year.
So we can expect the Born and Raised turkey tour here shortly?
I don't know if we're going to go that deep. I don't know if we're going to go quite that deep. Yeah, 35 states. No, but it was great, and just being with you guys, it was a blast. It was a blast.
Yeah, I think just having this many guys who spend as much time in the woods chasing whatever critter was just awesome to have that many people in camp that are that passionate about it.
Yeah,
I mean, I was telling Jake and Ted yesterday, like I'd hunting with like you guys and whatever, like I've like hardly ever laughed that hard like while you're out hunting or even in camp and whatever. I mean, just it's a crew of awesome people, and it's just been pumped that we all got together and did this.
Oh yeah, man, it's been a blast. And Trent's gave me, I got a lot of very good life advice, in the last few days, because we spent a lot of windshield time in the old Santa Fe out there.
Yeah, it's a nice ride.
Yeah. So I feel like we had fun, and I've also matured as a person. That's what I'm hoping.
Those are some big takeaways, man.
Yeah. And I want to go elk hunting.
I had a blast. Like I said, I've been trying to kill a turkey now. I've killed 2 turkeys in my life, but I've never been able to kill them in what I would consider the proper turkey way, which is calling them into a decoy or whatever. I always had to spot and stalk them. I'm still on the quest to do that. But I have I want to open this up to the group. My little brother brought this up to us yesterday. He said, "Why is it that anything that is like easy is considered a turkey shoot?"
Oh man!
Because from what we've experienced, this isn't easy.
No.
That is interesting.
That is a great point.
I don't have an answer to that one.
Yeah.
Deep thoughts.
Yeah.
All right. We'll leave it there then.
Enrique?
Yeah, I would echo like a lot of that. I mean, it's just cool, like getting a bunch of guys together, doing what you like doing. And the cool thing is too, like if for people listening, you can do this super affordable.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's something that you want to do, just grab a bunch of buddies, camp, rent a house, whatever, get a hotel, go somewhere. We haven't killed birds like we thought we were going to, but it's been a blast, So like that's not the defining factor of this. It's like just the camaraderie and stuff, and it's been awesome. So,
no, yeah, and if you do want to do this or you find this interesting and you haven't done it before and still have some question marks in your head of how do you hunt these things? How do you try and kill one of these darn things? Which I guess I'm still trying to figure out this week. Watch you some THP videos, because these guys know what's up and they have a ton of experience and impart a ton of knowledge in their videos. Heck, I learned a lot from those videos. And one of my big takeaways is just the stuff that I've learned throughout this week, or not week, but, throughout this trip, from you guys and from your videos. Heck, I got a couple takeaways from just this podcast alone. So appreciate that. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming out. This has been
awesome.
An absolute blast.
Yearly event?
I think we need to think about that pretty
serious.
serious.
We should look into it. I got some permission on some farms around here already.
And
that is a good point. Trent rolled into town and has been here for 48 hours and has accrued more permission than I've done in 28 years of life.
I told him the same thing. I'm
thinking it's a personality thing.
Well, yeah. The conversation started out as, "Hey, can we go kill a turkey on your land?" And the guy's response was, "What's it worth to you?" To when we walked away, the guy was pleading with Trent to come back and hunt this fall with him.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Can I expect you next year?" I'm like, maybe. I don't know.
So really, when I reflect back on every door that I've ever knocked on, it's really it's not you, it's me. Okay. Good. Well, I'm glad we got there.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming out. We'll see you in the Turkey Woods.
All right, that'll wrap it up for this episode of the Vortex Nation podcast. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Hit that subscribe button so you can always stay up to date on the latest happenings over here at the Vortex Nation podcast. Leave us a review or comment down below. We want to hear what you have to say about the show, maybe what you like, maybe what you didn't like, so that way we can make these podcasts as good as they can be. You can also follow us on Instagram at Vortex Nation Podcast. We'll be posting about each episode released, so that way you can go back, find these things, maybe grab a little nugget of information that you could take with you to the range, out in the field, or maybe to the kitchen if we're talking about some good food. So, again, everybody, thanks, and happy hunting and shooting. We appreciate it. Have a good one.